Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Great weekend, I'm assuming, from all of us here. Hopefully, everyone watching had a great weekend as well. CT, I'll start with you. How are you feeling after this weekend, and how are you doing?
Doing really well, guys. Floating on air, and great to be with you and the chat to talk about the latest and what a start to the season it's been. I mean, I was cautiously optimistic, but 3 wins, 3 clean sheets, and the way that the guys look under Slot. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Definitely. And Brandon, how are you doing after this weekend?
I am doing great. I kind of mentioned in the chat, I'm like very happy about the fact that like Slot is so different than Klopp in terms of personality, because this is like the first time I've watched a Manchester United game with Liverpool and not been like ready to like throw stuff around the room, just like because Klopp brings that emotion out of you, whereas like Slot's been very pragmatic and like it's very by the book and like this is how it goes. So it's been nice to not have to like have a heart attack every single game and like how are we going to come back from 1-0 down again. It's been an absolutely phenomenal start to the season for us.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree with that as well. I definitely feel a lot more relaxed watching Slot so far. And like you said, I think I was my constant comment in the chat was like, I feel like I'd have a heart attack every time Liverpool won, like that last season under Klopp. Was just at that point. But we'll dive right into it. I believe Steven set up the title of the video, starting with mashed Manx. Definitely not one to celebrate or rub it in too much, but it was a great, solid victory, and I didn't see it being any other score line or any other result. Maybe after the Trent disallowed goal, I was a little nervous, but CT, what were your overall thoughts on the game?
It was a really nervy start, like to be expected, and I was pretty calm going into the game. I thought we'd either, we'll get a result, we'll get a draw or a win, but obviously, I didn't foresee the level of domination. I thought it would, Manchester would put up, a better fight, but obviously we'll talk about the errors, and Casemiro did help, but I thought once Trent got the disallowed goal, that's when I started to feel the most confident that like we're going to win today, and that was just one of many chances to come. But I think we bossed the midfield as well, and all 3 guys in the midfield absolutely killed it. And look, Diaz taking his chances. The first one was a really well-headed goal, but the second one was what really like, well, I went, whoa. I'm like, clinical finish, half a chance that would go down to normally. Mo's quick flick, and it was just great chemistry to see that. And and once then I knew we weren't going to lose like last season, because as we'll talk about more, the defense looks really sound in terms of what Slot's adjusted, and not both fullbacks not bombing forward all the time, and guys tracking back a lot more as well. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, but just it looks really sustainable. I think the win wasn't like, oh my god, we turned in an all-timer performance, and I don't know if we'll see many more. I think this is the beginning of something really special and consistent.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting too, like you said, the defense and the stability there. 3 clean sheets in three games. That's not something we were used to under Klopp for the most part of his reign, especially last year. And yeah, for me, I'm like curious to see if that's something. Like it definitely seems more composed. More structured. It doesn't seem as frantic for me. But I'm also like, I think Xerxes makes like two chances that I thought he probably should have buried, and maybe a on form striker would have buried. And I think like in games against Brentford and Ipswich, there might have been a chance where an attacker put in. Like we've given up chances, but so I'm curious to see if it continues. But it seems just like the composure levels of the defense, like it doesn't seem like we're scrambling much. But Brandon, how are your overall experience of that game?
Excellent. Kind of like Clem's there saying, like it wasn't like an all-time performance from us, and we still won 3-0, which is like a beautiful thing to see. Just because I think somebody even put it in our chat as like we didn't really even get out of like third gear. We didn't really even get going. There's a couple chances we should have taken, especially Soboslai near the end of the game where he kind of decided to dance with the ball instead of just put it in the back of the net. Like there's chances where we could have maybe won this game 5-6-0. If we would have taken our shots, like, but the fact is it's game 3 underneath a new system, a completely refresh. And that's like the best part is that this whole team just looks fresh. And I know Mo kind of said it after the game. It's like, 7 years with Klopp, as much as we all love Klopp, like, it's kind of as much as you want to put everything into it. Like you sometimes just need that refreshing. And that's what we've got going on right now. Gravenberch in the center of the park, just immense. All 3 goals were awesome just because, all off defense, great wins, though the Casemiro ball in the first one is just an absurd ball to be played. I don't know what pass he's playing, which is great for us, and I'll take it every single time. I'll build a Casemiro statue outside of Anfield if he continues to play like that for us. And then like the second one, nicking the ball back. I thought if Casemiro probably grabs the ball, Taylor probably blows for a foul just because he's Anthony Taylor, but whatever. Then that third one, just bossing Mano off the ball to get it into Mo, and obviously Onana's positioning is poor, and that's what we come to expect from Onana. So, beautiful day to watch Liverpool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the midfield for me was amazing to watch. I think Gravenberch, as I said, just absolutely dominated that midfield. It's been great to see him just fully embrace that role. That one has been open. We'll talk about later in the title. We'll get to Zubimendi a little later, but Gravenberch for me has just been amazing and really nice to see the players who didn't quite get a chance under Klopp really shine through in that regards. I know Gravenberch in particular had some injuries, and it's kind of hard to really cement himself in the team. But I did feel like this would be an opportunity for some players who were on the fringes to establish themselves. But maybe Gravenberch at this moment's the only person who's really cemented himself from the fringe team of Klopp. But CT, where was the most important element of the field for you, and who was your man of the match for that game?
Yeah, I think the popular one would be the midfield. Just the way we controlled it and tracked back and also prevented the counter attacks that we usually gave up last season. But I'm going to go the least, sort of the lesser of the two, probably popular, which is up front. If you think about it, guys, we didn't really have a whole heap of chances. We just took all of the chances that we had, and if we did that last season, we probably would have finished with a lot more points. And if Slot can get more out of the front 3, which looks like he can so far, because Jota started really well and the like, but Diaz, he looks like a different player under Slot, and for him to get a double, his confidence is just going to go up even more as the season goes. And then what can I say about Salah? He's keeping me in my FPL as captain. 34 points I think he gave me as captain, 2 assists and a goal. And I mean, he just started the season so well. Could he look like, I'll ask you guys, could he look like a different player under Slot in terms of like, being rejuvenated, like Brandon said?
I definitely can. I know he started off like very strong in the past couple seasons, and it's been always, it feels like the AFCON is where his legs die. In that final run of the season, it seems like he really kind of tapers off. Don't have AFCON this year. Don't have to worry about that. Like, I think the way Slot has handled a couple of things, like obviously the Trent substitution and Trent not being happy about it and just kind of saying, well, that's the way it is, deal with it. I think we could have that more, because I think some of the issues with Salah is that he kind of demands to play every game. Like which, all the greats do that. Like, they want to play every single game, every single minute, where there was a lot of games last year where it's like, we have no reason to play Mo, but there he is starting and playing the full 90. And I think that was kind of him saying like, no, I want to play, and Klopp letting him play. I don't think Slot's going to let that, especially if we continue to progress in like Carabao Cup, FA Cup, stuff like that, that is going, no, we're going to have to rest because there's bigger games ahead. And so hopefully we can taper, like I kind of manage his minutes a little bit more than we did last year or a couple years before, especially without AFCON.
Yeah, I'm in the same position as Brandon there. totally agree. And the way Slot's handled it, I think, has been really nice. That's kind of understandable. It was understandable Trent's reaction to being subbed. I believe it was the Brentford game, maybe when he did his outburst. But I like how Slot sat him down afterward and kind of just talked with him. It seems like it's not even seeming like a power play, really, the way he's responding to it too. Like same with Kwanzaa, it just seems very matter of fact. It's like, hey, this isn't the only game we're playing. We're going to need you for bigger games down the line. And Kwanzaa is like, hey, it's not just, just not you as a player. You have a lot of potential, but it's just for that game situation we needed Kanate in. And clean sheets have proven that he's right. I just like the kind of calm, just like matter of fact demeanor where he's not making it about him, even though he's making these specific decisions. And I think, as you said, Salah will benefit from that. We've seen, Jota and Diaz being subbed off as well for Gakpo and Nunez the past couple games. So, as well as Simicas and Connor Bradley for our, left back and right back, Trent and Robertson. So I like that idea of keeping the legs fresh, or when we have the time to take them out, to give them that extra rest, because we've all seen the legs of players die. At ends of seasons past. So it's nice to have that option. It's nice to have a manager who's taking that within his philosophy and just like laying down the law, so to speak. And I'm really excited to see Chiesa possibly give Salah some, obviously probably he's not going to displace Salah, but I think Doak's going to be a big player, but it seemed like there was no really like for like when Salah's out. Like, God forbid he ever got an injury, but I'm really excited to see what Chiesa does when he gets on the pitch. But let's see. CT, let's speak a little bit on United. I definitely don't want to like rub salt in the wounds, but do you think our performance was like that excellent, or do you think Man U is just that poor right now?
I think it's an easy one. I think we were by far, I think, so impressive. I think they were up for it in the first 15, but we were basically snatched their soul out after the first disallowed goal, and I think they knew there was more coming. I think just looking at the team sheets, guys, they just weren't matching up very well in the midfield. I mean, they don't have many bodies. They had to basically take Casemiro out and put what is it, Collier in, a young kid, and they've obviously they suffered a brutal blow setback by Yoro, and missing him early, and then Ugarte, who then just last minute business that they should have done a lot earlier in the window, but they needed the funds from McTominay, so that even if he did play, they probably wouldn't have had much chemistry to begin with. But I just think we're leagues apart right now. I think United's probably a top 10, maybe top 8 team, and I think we're definitely a title contender. I think we showed it, and a lot of doubters are now starting to say, like, I don't know if you guys saw Scholes and Owen on the post game, but they were saying that we're real title contenders now. And I know a lot of ESPN shows were saying that they were doubting our aspirations, but I think people are really putting us up together with Arsenal now.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I didn't see why, honestly, after like the preseason. I know it was just preseason, but it seemed like right away you could see it, the style that we were trying to play under Slot, like taking hold of possession, not risking like the ball forward, like random balls forward when it's not necessary, looking for the right opportunity, etc. So I was kind of surprised people were sleeping on us at their predictions part of the season, because no one expected us to challenge at the end of for last season, and fell short. Pretty quick, or maybe not quickly, like March, but still fell short early on in the second half. But I was surprised that people were like saying we'd struggle to get fourth. So yeah, I agree with you that we were playing really well, but for me, I still think it was. I'm keeping it like maybe the hype a little lower down, because I don't know what's up with Man U. Like they I thought they did well in the Community Shield, and since then have been really poor. They beat City in the FA Cup. I don't know how they turn up for some games, and then just like you said, once we got the first goal in, or they just like heads dropped, and it was almost like game over at that point. But Brandon, what do you think we should take from this performance? Do you think it's United just being really poor, or do you think the performances that we're putting in are that higher level of excellence?
I think it's basically a nice confirmation of like the mission statement under Slot. It's like basically it's a great confirmation that we can move forward. You know, Klopp's not going. No Klopp doesn't mean we can't contend. I think the biggest reason why most people kind of thought we'd fall off, one, just obviously you're losing kind of one of the best managers in the world, one of the greatest managers ever. But on top of that, people get really attached to the transfer window and like how that's the only way you can improve a team. Teams can't grow without bringing players in, and we only brought in one player for depth. Or, I mean, I guess you can count the youngster from Chelsea as a second player, but we're not going to see him anytime soon. I think that's kind of where that, Liverpool's going to struggle because everybody else signed people, therefore they're better. And it's like, that's not really exactly how it works. I still, for the life of me, this is the third year of Ten Hag. I still can't figure out exactly what he wants from his Man United teams. Like, are they a big counterattack team? Are they a possession style team? Are they pressing? Because it like, seems like sometimes they want to press, but then they have Casemiro whose legs are dead and like he can't press that way. It's like I can't always. Every time I watch him, I always cannot figure out exactly where they're moving forward. It seems like he picks the wrong team, then plays, or he picks the right team, plays the wrong style, or vice versa. But ultimately, going to Old Trafford, which we couldn't do last year and win, and winning this season early, staying with Man City as they've came out the gates hot as they always do. Is a great kind of confirmation that this team can still do things. This team's not going anywhere. We were very good last year. Obviously, some injuries, tired legs, kind of emotional drainage of Klopp leaving and stuff like that, getting announced so early, kind of February it was announced, kind of the draining part of that kind of took the wind out of our sails and made people kind of forget how good we kind of were and how that was last year was supposed to be the big time struggle year for us to see if we can still get top four. Like, bringing in a whole new midfield and still contending was kind of unheard of. But, I think this is the team that Slot kind of wants. I think he may want another player in, which we might talk about here in a little bit, kind of a different kick something. Sorry. Lost my train of thought too. Yeah, maybe bringing somebody else if he maybe can shift a few players around that doesn't seem to fit his style, which we'd see in January. But yeah, this is a great kind of start to the year and kind of confirmation of what Slot wants.
Yeah, and I'm torn between thinking the internet. Like I was like, keep pressing on the international break. And always the first one's always like, wait, what? 3 games in, we're already breaking for internationals. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's. I know some players are staying back at Liverpool to get some training in. We'll touch on that a little later, but we'll get more towards personnel. I want to ask this question before we completely shift to the next topic. CT, in terms of personnel on our starting 11, it's pretty much been the same the past 2 games. The only real difference was that Kwanzaa out for Kanate, and that was addressed in the first opening game of the season. Right now, with that starting 11, do you think that's our best starting 11? And do you think there's any players in there that potentially could be usurped by someone who's on our bench or waiting in the lines?
That's a really, really good question, Drew. I think right now, from what I've seen, I would be comfortable saying that the starting 11 is our best when in terms of talent, form right now. But I think a couple of players who would be next in line if there's some injuries. I think Harvey Elliott would be capable of doing what Dominic Szoboszlai has been doing in terms of forward play, but tracking back, Dominic's a better option right now for us because he can sort of be box to box and do more tracking back. But Harvey up front, I think, could do just as good of a job. I think it seems a world away, but Jarell Kwanzaa did start in game 1, remember, and then he was yanked after at halftime, which showed the world immediately that Slot was ruthless in terms of you must give what he needs, and he'll be not afraid to make changes. But I think Kwanzaa was definitely a little bit unlucky to to start game one and miss out. But that just further highlights how great Konate has been as well, and our defense. I like the fact that he's willing to rotate the fullbacks as well. Like Simicast comes on, let's rest the legs of Robbo and Bradley, really deserving of minutes. Although Trent's one of the best, if not the best, right back in the world. So he's going to have to wait and bide his time. But then I think up front, like how is Chiesa gonna get minutes? Because I was talking about Chiesa like a month ago. I was thinking, if he's a bargain to be had, like, should we entertain it? And then we, fast forward, here we are. And I think he's going to be really important for Champions League, Cup games and all of that, and resting guys. But yeah, look, Cody had such a good Euro tournament, but the fact that Lucho started so well, and, I first thought that would Slot give a fellow Dutchman an early opportunity, but no, he's gone, and reports have just come out that he's really, really high on Lucho. So I think Gakpo is going to have to wait and bide his time. But yeah, they're just some of the names of guys who I think deserve a shot. But right now, I think our starting 11 is spot on. What do you guys think?
I'm in complete kind of agreement there. I think in terms of our starting 11, best 11 right now, it's the 11 that we're putting out there. I think some people kind of I know Konate really had a big dip in form, then obviously his injury history. I think people sometimes can forget how good he really is and how much he fits right beside Van Dijk at the back, and how, as much as great as Kwanzaa has been, like Konate at this point in their careers is kind of still another level on the top of his game. The rotation is there. When we have, especially at the forward line, I think Chiesa, if he turns into like a Xherdan Shaqiri, like he did that first year he was there, like that'd just be perfect. A guy who shows up, scores a few goals here, and like important goals here and there, and like just kind of gives us a little bit of a different dynamic. That'd be just beautiful. At the beginning of the season, I really kind of with you, Clem, that Cody, I thought was really going to be that left winger. I thought he was going to take that and run with it. And then obviously Lucho has started off in just the grandest form possible for him. And he's kind of being the player that we've all hoped he would turn into. Obviously, you got to keep it going. But yeah, as of right now, this is the starting 11 I would run with every single game.
I'm going to make it 3 out of 3, Brandon. I was similar, same with you guys. I thought Gakpo might have been my one push for the starting 11. I really think he's a quality player, especially with how Slot likes to link up play and hold on to possession. I think Cody's got great skill on the ball, but that's something Diaz also has. What we've all talked about and has been the kind of debate is whether or not Diaz could get some end product in. I think he had the worst stats in terms of goals and assists out of the starting 5 forwards last season. And I was like, right before he scored, I think I sent a text to the group. So I need to start doing this every game. But I was like, how many times has Diaz lost the ball this first half? And I think it was like 2 minutes later, he scored that header, and then the second before halftime. 3 goals already, opening 3 games. I think he's like CT, you said at the beginning of the stream, like the confidence that will build for him. I think that's, for me, the most important thing for a player is confidence in their abilities, and being able to pull from that well each game, even when you do miss. Because for me, that was exactly a point in case when he was giving the ball away and then comes up big in those moments. As you said, we didn't have too many opportunities. I think the Salah right after the second goal or the third goal, when he had that shot where he dribbled past the whole defense and then placed it over the bar. And Szoboszlai are the only ones I remember being like really clear cut. But Diaz taking those opportunities and just burying them was huge. So besides that, CT, your shout of Elliot for Szoboszlai, that's the only one that I thought maybe he deserves the time, because I think Elliot definitely deserves time. But the Man United game for me was like Szoboszlai just really coming into that position and cementing himself as the go-to guy in that midfield role. But while there's this break between shifting to the next topic on the agenda for tonight, just want to say thank you for everyone tuning in. We really appreciate everyone who joins these streams, these Star Stripes Anfield night streams on Tuesdays. We definitely please encourage any comments, any questions. I'll start throwing those up more as we get them. And yeah, please continue to watch. Hope you enjoy. And now that we've talked about the personnel and the team, the second topic on tonight's agenda is, I believe Stephen called it Zubimendi Part 2. Pretty sure won't go into that, but Zubimendi, the kind of rumors, I think it was Fabrizio Romano putting out there that we haven't completely distanced ourselves from Zubimendi, that he's still a player we are interested in. Is that someone, CT, that you think we should go in for in January? Because right now, Real Sociedad are having an abysmal start to their season. They haven't offered him a new contract, which was rumored, what they're going to do. So maybe Zubimendi is feeling a bit of, FOMO and could be tempted by a move. But do you think that's someone we should be going back in for after he rejected us?
Yeah, it's a great question again, Drew. I think like my head says yes. Like, you shouldn't let your ego or pride, stop you from doing what would improve the team. But as a fan, I was like, I understood why he turned us down. But I'm kind of like, I'm riding the wave now. I'm riding the Gravenberg wave. And so, yeah, a lot has to play out. But I do think, the two key things you mentioned, Drew, at the beginning that have led this to resurface, which is Fabrizio talking about it, and obviously Zubimendi and his club not starting well and him not getting a new contract. I mean, that might just tell him where they're loyal, where the club hasn't repaid his loyalty that he showed. Because I mean, I still respect Zubimendi because he entertained us seriously, and it was a big decision for him and his family, and he did say yes. So he is open, you would assume, to still making the move one day. It's just a matter of us, I guess, still maintaining a relationship. I guess that's the key in professional sports. You must maintain these relationships because it might not happen like at one specific point. But then what if we got Zubimendi in the future somehow and he ends up a Liverpool legend? You like I said, you should always just maintain relations with the agent because, like you said, Drew, he might just turn sour on them and realize that he made a mistake. And look, gun to my head, I would say, I would welcome him back on this team because it does seem like he's the perfect player for Slot system. That could be scary hours for the rest of the league.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, CT. I'd say yes. I was a bit annoyed at first because he said yes and then he backtracked, but maybe that we gave him that time by not activating the release clause, trying to fiddle around with the finances and giving Real Sociedad a chance to persuade him to stay. I think the indecisiveness really irked me when the deal first fell through. But at the same time, the fact that Sociedad have not backed him up and like giving him a new contract, the poor start. I think for me, if he did, let's say we did put in the bid, we did get him in January, he would have a lot to prove. And I think that would be one of those make or break moments for a player. And hopefully he'd be able to step up to it after kind of shying away from the move before. But I'll throw this in question from the comment when I pass this to you, Brandon. So Ken Pachi said, while rotating the team, who starts first, Endo or Morton? I'll piggyback that question on what you think about Zubimendi, because right now, CT was saying Gravenberch has been doing amazing. You wouldn't want to displace him. But Gravenberch got injured last season, was pretty much out for the rest of the season. In that League Cup final, struggled to get back after that. We're pretty much relying, like Gravenberch's the only one right there. We know McAllister can slot in, but do you think Zubimendi, first off, do you think Zubimendi we should be going back in for him in January? And then who is in that hierarchy of succession, let's say if Gravenberch got injured right now?
I think if Gravenberch got injured might be the harder question, because I don't think Endo does really much of what Slot wants. Like, I just, as much as I really love Endo, I love Endo as a player. But I don't think he really does what Slot wants. I think it would have to be Morton, because he kind of does have that little bit of that metronome type of game to him. Really good passer. He's just not tested at this level, but that's what was my worry with Grav before we started the season, was we're asking him to kind of learn this position and become this type of player on the fly when he's never really had to been that player. But obviously Gravenberch is, there's a reason why he was so highly sought after when he went to left Ajax, I should say. I would think Morton would get a shot first, because I think Slot is very, like I say, he's been very pragmatic. This is what he wants. So I think Morton fits what he wants more than Endo does, as much as it pains me to see that for like Endo. But with Zubimendi, it's not really been as long as I follow Liverpool, the Liverpool way of somebody saying no or us missing out on a target than us going back for them. At least as profile as that. I remember Will Hughes like 10 years ago when he was at Derby. Like, we were chasing after him all January, it seemed, and then it never happened, and then it never came back. And it was like, oh, they'll go back in the summer. Then summer, nobody said a word about him ever again. Remember Tom Ince, Konoplyanka years and years ago. Andre last year, like that was like, seemed like it was nailed on. We'll just go back and get him in January. And what, did he actually end up getting a move or not? I don't even know if he even got a move. I think he might.
What was that?
Yeah, he's on the Wolves.
Oh, he went to the Wolves. Okay. Yeah, that seemed like, oh, why don't we just go back in for him? And it seems like, no, he said, no, we're not going back for him. I would still love Zubimendi because of all the kind of midfielders that were in that kind of role, kind of how CT said, like, he's the one that kind of fit the most. He's the one that really seemed like he would tick all the boxes that we really need. I love him as a player, but I'm ready to kind of ride or die with Grav now, just because of how technically good he is. He sees the game so well, and he's so long. Like, just, he picks off passes that doesn't seem like, it seemed like a good pass at the time from the defense, but then he's there because he's just so long. His stride's great. He's athletic. He's strong. I think he's just going to grow in that role and truly could become a world beater. But yeah, but the first question, I think Morton would get a game before Endo.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Brendan, as you said, like how Gravenberch has just flown into it, if that would actually give us some more leverage on the Zubimendi deal, being like, hey, we're not as dire as we possibly could have been viewed in the summer transfer window. I know, like, when you need a center back, that's when everyone kind of hikes up their prices for center backs, etc., when they know what you need. But yeah, I'm certainly happy with Gravenberch. And CT, I'll give you that question because I think Ken Patchy had a really good one. When rotating the team, or if Gravenberch got injured, who starts first, and or Morton? And then before you answer that, we'll scroll down because Jay Muse and That's a Tap have put out Don't Discount Jones as well. Where do you view on that hierarchy of our options in depth from the bench behind Gravenberch?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and that's why we have a great chat, because they always give us the great questions. And while everyone's always looking at Gravenberch and he's taken the opportunity and he's ran with it, what happens if he goes down? While I was thinking about the options, I was thinking, don't discount Dom, because I think Slot's mentioned that before. Maybe Elliot comes in for Dom and Dom pushes back, because we know he can play with his feet. So I think he would probably prefer Dom over Endo. But then Jones, definitely, I think he would. It depends on what he's seen in training and how he views Jones. But I think Jones would be ahead of Endo. But I actually think Endo would be ahead of Morton. I know it doesn't make much sense, but I still think Morton, being so young, I still think he would maybe be likely to give Endo a chance, or he might feel as long as Endo's next to a McAllister or next to someone who can do what he needs, that he can adjust the roles a little bit. And we're really going to see how flexible Slot is, because one of the best things about Jurgen Klopp was that you could give him anything and he could make the best out of it. But Slot's it seems like he wants to play his way. So let's see how flexible he is, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious too. Like, I guess the first time we'll really get a chance to see a change side will be the League Cup match. I believe it's at the end of September. So yeah, I'm really excited to see who he picks because for me, I'd actually put I'd like the Dom shot CT, maybe even McAllister there as well. For me, I'd place Jones and Endo maybe a little further down. Jones, I'd like more in that 8 position, maybe replacing Dom because he's got a lot of energy. But I think Jones holds onto the ball too much. Maybe gets caught on it a bit too much, whereas I think you need to be really quick on the ball, and that's something that Endo isn't the best at. Even though I trust them both in that role, but in terms of hierarchy, I'd kind of go maybe Dom or McAllister behind Gravenberch, throw Jones up further, and
And
then I'd like to see Morgan give it a shot, but
I'll just throw you guys in the chat a curveball because I just thought of another name that might surprise us all. What if he decides to put Trent in there and then activate the activate his wild card, and then Connor Bradley can fill in his role.
Brandon, I don't know about you, but I always feel like I do not want Trent receiving the ball with his back like up the field. I don't know how good he is at turning on the ball when his back is to goal. But Brandon, you think we're gonna see that? I guess the prophecy of Trent in midfield fulfilled.
I could see it being experimented with at some point. I think if that was like a move that was really kind of okay, if Grav goes down, like they had a couple weeks before the season started when they kind of knew what the midfield was going to be, that we probably would have seen Trent kind of maybe not so much start there, but maybe have been playing there at some point, or we'd have heard whispers coming out of AXA that, hey, they're trying Trent in this position. They're kind of playing around with him as being that 6, or maybe he's the 8 of that side, like, and they move somebody else over there. That would be quite a shout. I'm so back and forth on Trent in the midfield. I think he could do wonders there, but there's a little bit more. I don't know, not so much. There's more responsibility, but there's just it takes away such a weapon to have it right back. Like have to worry about him. Like their wingers can't push as far forward because of Trent getting in behind and he has space. He can just pick out anything on the pitch. That it's just such the catch-22. You lose such a unique weapon in world football, but you have such a technically great player that could definitely, I think, could thrive in that position. That it's just such a toss-up. Like I think you're kind of damned if you do or damned if you don't on that type of thought with Trent in the midfield.
Yeah, definitely. Quick shout out. I brought this up earlier, but Ignoni might get some playing time as well. I'm certainly hope he gets possibly in the League Cup. But who do we draw? Well, we drew West Ham, so might be too early for Ignoni on that one. At least in terms of quality of opposition. I wanted to bring up this question before we move on from the Zubimendi chat. RB threw this in the chat. Really good question, or at least a really good thought. I wonder where this Zubimendi stuff is coming from, us or his camp or both. CT, you mentioned that Fabrizio Romano put out that tweet. Just based on how things have gone, or just personal feeling about this, do you think this information? I guess the quote was that we're still interested in Zubimendi. So do you think it is from our camp that we're putting it out there, or do you think maybe Zubimendi's agent paid Fabrizio to put that out there?
Yeah, I think it's more coming from Zubi's side, to be honest, because Romano, without being in his position, and I would love to be in his position, but he gets his information from agents mostly, like the club. Liverpool Football Club don't leak stuff out to Fabrizio Romano. He does his background. He speaks to agents mostly, and the agent's probably going to want to keep the door ajar because that's what a good agent does, But I think one of the reasons why Zubi might have a new affinity with maybe a bigger affinity with coming to Anfield is because we didn't get anyone. Like we said it, Zubimendi or no one. That's like, a girl saying to you, or, a partner saying to you, I want to be with you or no one else. Like if that doesn't perk your eyes or your attention, then nothing will. You know, a lot of people don't get what they want and they just move on to the next thing. But the fact that we didn't sign anybody and we said, look, let's just keep things on ice. Maybe in our last conversation with his agent, it was like, you know, okay, well, let's revisit it. Maybe we don't know. Maybe let's let Martin and his partner or his family, you know, stay in Spain because they're not willing to move yet. But we're not going to sign anyone. We want to keep the door ajar, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if Chiesa is willing to move away from Italy to Liverpool, I think Zubimendi could, take the bullet and move up to Merseyside as well. But Brandon, just your thoughts on whether or not you think the comments might have been from Zubimendi's camp or from Liverpool's.
I think it'd be more from his camp than our camp. It seemed like we didn't leak much of anything over the summer. Left a lot of us in the dark, left us craving for content here on the channel. So I think it'd be more from his, kind of like what CT's saying, like, you know, keep the door ajar. Like, talk about how he hasn't got the contract extension yet. You know, starts whispers that Liverpool just come back for him in January. Maybe that can kickstart the contract extension talks. Like, there's all these games that agents have to play to get the most for their clients. And, like, you know, I think that's what's going on here, is that he's just playing a little bit of the game to try to get that contract extension that was promised, or apparently promised, to stay, get going.
Yeah, probably more along the lines of what you're saying, Brandon and CT. I'm gonna just play devil's advocate, and I'm wondering, using CT's analogy of your partner, like, to say it's you or no one. I'm wondering if Liverpool is like, you know what, Fabrizio's got a lot of followers, and Zubimendi's old partner is not treating him well. So let's just say we're still interested, and put that seed in his mind. But we'll move on from Zubimendi because we still have our last topic to cover for tonight, and that is the Reds on international duty. So I don't have the full list in front of me, so apologies. That's on me. I got out of work late and didn't get to get all that information. But Steven is saying to me that while the Reds have departed for international break, I know that Chiesa is staying, and that was something he discussed with the Italian manager, that he wanted that time to settle in, etc. It seems like Darwin's staying as well. Just in general, CT, where do you think this international break falls for us? Do you think this is a good time for a little mini break to just have that pause in the season this early? Do you think it really disrupts the flow? And what's your opinion on the players who, like Darwin and Chiesa, who are staying? Do you think that puts them in pole position to potentially start a game? Maybe not Chiesa, but Darwin, when the season resumes in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the break isn't bad. I think it could be whatever each player makes it to be. Like, for example, Endo is I think is going to be getting 2 caps for Japan, and so he's in dire need of some competitive minutes. And then you look at a player like Chiesa, who didn't get a preseason, and he's going to be able to be around the AXA training facility and impressing, and the coaches and getting amongst it and getting his fitness up. And then the same, with Darwin. I'm not sure if Darwin's been called up, but I think it's come at a decent time. Like, we've got a good start. Let's reflect on it a little bit, and let's continue to do what we need to do. Curtis Jones, he had a little knock, and I think this will help him out as well. And then we've had a lot of schedule confirmed since recently. We know our cup games, we know the Champions League. I think the coaches and the players can kind of look at it now and look at where am I going to get my minutes, where am I going to get my game time, and all of those things. So I think it's going to come at a good time and give everybody a bit of clarity over a storm that's about to hit. Because I think there's a huge period where it's like Real Madrid, and then it's Man City. And I haven't fully looked at it, but I heard it's insane.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards your opinions on it as well, CT. I think for me, normally very uncomfortable about international breaks and thoughts of injuries disrupting flow, but I think it's almost kind of like a in terms of slides, like continue with the relationships analogy. It's like we've gone on a couple dates. We're like, hey, this is pretty good. Then you have like a couple weeks to think about how good it is, and be stoked to get back into camp. And then the players who are still in camp have that chance to really get some work in under Slot and potentially step forward in their progress with the first team. But Brendan, before I throw that question to you, I just want to say again to everyone watching, really appreciate everyone tuning into the stream. Again, CT, Brandon, and I really enjoy doing these streams, and everyone who watches, we really appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them in the chat, and I'll do my best to bring them up at the right time. And so, Brandon, how does this international break feel for you? CT and I seem to be pretty cool with it, but are you on the side of the fence where it's just like, God, why did they interrupt this 3-game streak? Are you chilling?
Oh yeah, I'm the devil's advocate on this one, but most of that has to do with I despise international football. I don't like watching it. I find it boring, so I don't really care for it. So I never get invested. So I'd rather them be back at access safe and sound, not in my mind wasting their time on games that I don't care about. So I'm selfish in that respect. But yeah, like I don't think Darwin's well, I don't think Darwin can play even if they call him up, right? He's suspended from the
Yeah.
He's suspended. So I guess they could call him up and just go watch games if he feels like it, but I don't think he would want to do that. I think that'd be great for him to be able to stay, get some more work in under Slot, get a little more of a relationship going. Yeah, I hate this. I always hate the first international break because it's like you kind of get that first bite of the apple, and then they take it away for a couple weeks, and it's like if it was the October one, I'm more fine with it. But it's always that we just played 3 games. I'm kind of at this point I'm wanting more Liverpool games, and it's like they gave me just a little bit and they yank it right back away from me. So that's why I always hate the first one the most. But like I said, it's also just I don't like international football that much, so I'd much rather them stay at home and never get hurt and be okay. I don't want a Joe Gomez situation or God, I mean, I can't even think of all the other players we've lost on international duties like over the years. Like it always seems like it hits us the most, but it's probably just me being kind of a homer on that one. But yeah, I'm not happy about this one personally.
Yeah, that's fair. I never understood like the September international break, 3 games in. That one's absolutely ridiculous. Even though I'm okay with this one, just on that temporary break, I don't understand how they schedule these breaks. It's ridiculous. And now with like the Nations League, just adding an extra instead of a friendly, it's like trying to throw another competition around it to, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it baffles me, but we'll move on towards wrapping up the stream, but we're going to talk about when the Reds get back. CT, you touched on it, the schedule, fixtures kind of pick up. I'm looking at the fixture list right now. We have the first game back against Nottingham Forest at home on the 14th. Then we have AC Milan on the 17th away. Then back at home, Bournemouth on the 21st. Then at home versus West Ham, EFL Cup, away at Wolves. And that's pretty much the rest of September. How do you feel? Like the fixtures are already starting to squeeze together those extra, was it 4 Champions League games or 2 Champions League games? Certainly, probably if Klopp was still around, he'd be screaming at reporters about that. But how do you feel about that list of fixtures for the rest of September, and where do you see us in terms of points? What would be acceptable, and what would be acceptable for you to take from those fixtures coming back?
Yeah, I think just starting specifically, maybe 1 draw and the rest wins, or all wins. I think we've seen how good we are when everyone's fit. Our first 11 is to me is proven now that we can win the title. The quality is there, but we all know, guys, to win a title, it's the rest of the squad. Squads win titles, and so I think we're about to find out how real and how can Slot, keep this train moving, express. And I think he's still learning about the squad. I don't think he's formed full, assumptions on everyone. I think training is still important for these players. Players had an interrupted preseason. We have a new attacker in Chiesa. I think the sky's the limit. But yeah, we're really going to find out how good we can be with the rest of the squad and the depth, because they're going to have to play. They're going to have to get plenty of minutes with Champions League, cups. I mean, my personal strategy would be to give all the cups to Morton, Nione, and McConnell, and maybe Harvey Elliott and Endo, and then any of the best 3 attackers. But I'd love to hear what you guys think, and then keep this squad for Premier League and Champions League, because we've won a few cups recently, and that's not my full focus. I know the clubs want to try to win everything, but how would you guys approach this schedule with rotation, and what would be a strategy for cups, and for the league and champions?
I think this is kind of that first game, and it's not enforced, will kind of dictate the rotation of how we do things. Like I could see Harvey getting the start in that game. Maybe so it's like coming off the bench or playing a little bit deeper, or maybe moving out. Maybe wouldn't move out to the wing. We'd probably have to see one of the other ones before we sell him out that way. Just give also Dom that game in Milan like 3 days later. So just to kind of be able to break that up and not have to, we're playing the same squad 3 days apart. We can rotate players in. Maybe we see Kwanzaa against Nottingham Forest. He comes back to the squad. Maybe Bradley gets a start. Like we can see a little bit, we'll probably get more of an indication of how much Slot trusts the depth of this team with that first game in Nottingham Forest, and how much the rotation really is going to be that important moving forward. And I can see in the EFL Cup how much he's going to also take it seriously. I mean, we all want to win everything, but I wouldn't be that upset if this year we kind of do exit early from a cup and kind of really can focus on the big competitions. Like I wouldn't be that, especially if it's now, like obviously if we get to the semifinal and we lose, that's when it hurts like the most, or lose the final. But like if we lost into Wolves or dropped, I'd be, it sucks, but we can definitely move on. We have bigger fish to fry right now. But yeah, I think that first game against Nottingham Forest is really going to dictate how much Slot trusts the squad and how much he's going to be rotating moving forward.
I totally agree with that, Brendan. For the part where I'll step aside from you both is the cups for me, like even League Cup. I would definitely be down with some changes, but I wouldn't go full like youngsters, especially against West Ham. I would put the B squad maybe, or the players who are on the fringe. Like I put Gakpo in, put Darwin in, Elliott in, like that level of backup. Maybe like Inyoni or Morton in, like, and then like Kwanzaa, Gomez, Simicas, Bradley, that kind of level for me, because I'm always of the opinion that you never know what you're going to get at the end of the season. And for me, last year, the perfect example was all we got was the League Cup. But that was a really great day for me. I loved seeing the Klopp kids out there. And, Ten Hag got a lot of grief for saying 2 trophies in 2 years. So that's second behind Man City. If they did better in the league and they weren't as such a hot and cold team with a lot of jokeness or like jokes about their squad and their form, I would agree with that though, because I'd say Liverpool obviously did better than them the past 2 years, just from league position in Champions League, and the cup as well. But I would not want to be an Arsenal fan just falling behind City twice, not having any trophies to show for it, without the possibility of any promise for trophies moving forward. So for me, taking those games seriously to an extent, like I'm not ready to throw kids in this early on. I'd want us to put in the strongest reasonable squad for these kind of cup games. But Brandon, I totally agree with you on the. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I kind of remember when we were chasing Man City and we lost 3-0 to Barcelona. I do remember having that feeling of we're going to do all of this and come up with no trophies at the end of the year. And I remember how devastating that kind of felt at the time. Obviously, we turned it around and got the Champions League, but I remember how devastating that felt. Like, just we're going to do all of this work. We're going to put in all these incredible performances Mo's going to score that ridiculous goal against Chelsea. We're going to do all these fantastic things, miss out on drawing with Man City by what was like 6 centimeters or something like that with the clearance off the line from like that being the difference in the title race. Like we're going to have all that and get nothing at the end of the day. I remember being devastated about that, but I'm with you. Like in terms of like rotating the squad, I mean like basically if that squad ends up not winning that game, I'm not that asked about it.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And yeah, like what you said too about Nottingham Forest, I'm curious to see if Slot makes those changes for possibly late returning players from international break. If someone like Darwin Nunez gets a nod over, like a Diaz, depending where he's traveling from, or like a McAllister gets a rest and Endo gets in the squad or something like that, or Elliott, whatever it is. So curious with that. But yeah, I'm definitely glad that the fixture list coming back from break is a couple of home games in the Premier League and a couple of cup games. So that's, pretty solid. We don't always get that lucky coming back from a international break. But we'll wrap up the stream with this question from Holy Ghost. What do you guys think about the Salah situation? And CT, I'm going to throw that to you. And just Salah, Trent, and Virgil van Dijk, what do you think of their contract situation? Do you see that getting resolved? And which, if any, are staying?
Yeah, that's the great question right now. And I love Mo's passion and his candidness in that interview. I'm someone who, it didn't bother me at all. I think transparency is great. I think it showed, if anything, he wants to be here. He wants to stay, and he was, riding high after a man of the match type performance, and he's scoring goals, he's assisting, and he knows how much work he's put in, and he wants the club to reward him with a new deal. Now, the terms of the deal, that adds the layer to it in terms of how much more is he asking for? Is he asking for more years? Is he wanting a certain number? Is he flexible about it? And the club's just not ready, wasn't ready yet to talk. But I think Fabrizio, correct me if I'm wrong, did drop a little jewel that the club will be focusing on talking to these 3 players right now or soon. And I think the international break is probably a great time as well. I think it's more likely than not that all 3 stay. I'm still really optimistic, guys. I think Trent will probably be the first deal to get done, and then the other 2, I think Virgil and Mo, I feel more confident about them staying, because where else can they really go? They both, it's a drop off after Liverpool. Those 2 guys, they can't exactly go to City, or they're not going to go to Chelsea, although Chelsea will probably try. But where do they want to go? PSG or Bayern Munich? Like, outside of England. I think if it is numbers, they'll probably take a reduction, but it'll be on Edwards' terms. He might decide to say, "Hey Mo, we'll give you a 2-year deal, and then we'll go one and one after that, if you're still producing," or something like that. But I'm confident that all 3 get done. I just think the Trent one has probably got more nuances to it in terms of incentives, finances, years to it. And maybe, he's thinking about his long-term future, potentially, whether it's here forever or it's here for a little bit more and then Real Madrid, or love to get your thoughts on it, guys.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on all 3 of them, like which one's the most important to get done, and I cannot figure out which one is the most important to get done. Like, it seems like, Virgil's the best center back of his generation by quite a ways, in my opinion. Like, I don't think there's anybody in this generation that really touches Virgil at the back, at least consistently. Like, there's some guys who will have their performance. I know Arsenal loves to say Saliba. I know Laporte, when he was great at City, they used to say the same thing, but like consistency and just how easy he makes it. Like, he's just so he's just so much better than everybody. But then you have Trent, who is, like I said earlier on the show, like he's the most unique weapon in footy. He's like the most unique player to have in footy. Like, just how good he is on the ball, his passing range, his passing ability, just what you don't have at right back ever. And then Mo is just consistently even when you think he's had a bad season, he's contributed like 30, 35 goals over all competitions. You're like, oh, he did do all that. It's just, I don't know. When he said, I think whenever he was talking after the game the other day, he said something like, "This is my last year." That was like when it finally kind of sank in. It was like, this could really be the end of like the Mo Salah era. And like, I'd been okay with the idea of Mo leaving, but then it kind of was like, I'm not ready for Mo to leave, because I know everybody says he's off to Saudi if we do let him go. I don't think he's ready to go to Saudi or anything like that. I think he would want to still chase Champions League glory, chase all the big like trophies, try to get the Ballon d'Or, all that stuff. I think he's still got that in his like wish list. He still wants to do that, and you're not going to get that in Saudi. You're not going to be able to win those type of trophies. Nobody's going to give you the Ballon d'Or for scoring 40 goals in that league. I'm not trying to offend the league. It's just obviously not at that level. It's scoring, 40 goals in the MLS. Nobody's going to ultimately care on the world stage. I hope all three do get done. I gun to my head, I think Van Dijk's the most important one to get done, because I think captain of the club, like I said, just that rock at the back, and we don't have anybody who's consistently ready to take his spot. Whereas like Bradley has shown abilities to be a really good right back in the world football, not as unique as Trent, but still a very good player. I think Van Dijk would be the one got to get done first, but it's a kind of squeezing your cheeks moments right now.
Yeah, for sure. And Brandon, you gave me definitely pause for thought on the Van Dijk. I was going to say possibly Salah, then Van Dijk, then Trent in order of my hierarchy, but I switched my mind with that one, because you're right. Like, I don't see there being someone who could step up. Kwanzaa definitely has the ability, but when you think of a player like Thiago Silva and how his longevity in the game, or any kind of center back, Ramos, although he's not my favorite, like some of the best center backs can play a bit longer, and especially in the slot system. I think Van Dijk has some years ahead of him. So I definitely want that presence and knowledge, intelligence, and ability in the game for his position to stay at least for another 2-3 years. Salah, I think, will sign on, as you said. Like, he doesn't want to just go to the farm and put his feet up for the rest of his career. He's working hard. It's obvious. Like, every Instagram post he makes is him working hard, and he definitely wants the record. You see him when he missed that goal against United after his first one, when he dribbled past everyone and blasted over the bar. How like pissed he was. So love seeing that. And for me, Trent is like the one that could go. I could honestly see him. Not saying I'd want him to go, because as you said, Brandon, he's that unique weapon that's kind of, no one else can really do what he does in that position. But I think Real Madrid, I almost think back to like the Steve McManaman transfer to Real Madrid, the free transfer, and I could see that being this happening again, because maybe we didn't put it out there soon enough for Trent. Maybe it didn't seem like we wanted him as much. Bradley coming in, that kind of narrative / Real Madrid, that position is open with Carvajal, like getting to that age where, he's the one player in that squad that looks needing replacement at least in the next year or two. So for me, all those elements, Bellingham in there, etc., the new age Galacticos. I think Trent's the one signing, or at least extension, that I'm a little wouldn't be surprised if that's the one that we didn't nail down. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it is 3 out of 3, as that's what Tap said. But I'm hoping that childhood legendary status, and I always say this whenever Trent's contract comes up, just send Steven Gerrard to his house, and I think it gets done if Gerrard sits him down with the contract. But we'll wrap up the stream for tonight. CT, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Everyone in the chat, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We really appreciate it. And just in general, regardless, we really appreciate everyone joining in the chat, viewing the stream, and participating each week. We do Star Stripes Anfield nights every Tuesdays. And thank you again for joining. Everyone have a great rest of your week. Fingers crossed, no injuries on international